Hey everyone, and welcome to Minecraft. Obviously, this is a game you all have seen and heard, most likely on my channel, at least once back in the day. It's been quite a little while since I started this up, and we are going to be jumping into some Terrafirmacraft. Stone Hearth was completed, and I decided to replace one blocky game with yet another. So Minecraft being something that I can play and a little bit more of a less creative mindset. You know, my channel is about creativity and things like that, but it's starting to slowly get to me coming up with interesting builds every day, and there are certain times where I just need a break from that kind of stuff. So we're going to be doing Terrafirmacraft, and let's go ahead and jump into it. Terrafirmacraft, of course, being my favorite mod and what I think is probably the best representation of what Minecraft could have been. Like after a certain point, I really dislike just default Minecraft. So this kind of brings it back to what I think it should have just turned out to be. So the world name, we're just gonna call this. I could say Lothloria, but obviously that's kind of taken. So we'll just call this Freeport. That'll be kind of the mindset we'll go into. So Freeport is a good base town name. Game mode survival, of course, more world options. Let's come up with a seed generation here, and I'm just going to type something out. We'll just go with Uthris, the Prince of Blueprints. Perfect. Even add an exclamation mark. Default world generation, no cheating, bonus chest off. So there you go. And let's go ahead and create our world. Terraformacraft does use larger worlds than base Minecraft. The height limit is much different, and same with the sea level. We are in a hole on a beach. Yes, we are on a beach. Now, if I press F3, that's going to bring up our coordinates and things, of course. But at the bottom, there's some new elements here at the bottom left over in this section here. The rain value, kind of taking note of how likely it might be to rain. The temperature currently, it's in Celsius, so we're at 10 degrees Celsius. The average biome temperature, the closer to 0 that is, the more likely you're going to be having winter. So I'm happy with a 3 biome temperature. That means we're going to have some seasons. And I do like some seasons in this game. This game does simulate all that good stuff. And if you look, we have a wonderful beach here. And plenty of trees, so we have a nice little forest, and there's a bunch of different tree types, biome types for sure. The first thing that you're going to want to do in Terraformacraft is run around. Unlike normal Minecraft, we're not going to be punching trees for logs or anything like that. No, see, we don't want to break our hands, so what we're going to go around on beaches, through the forests, and look for driftwood, these sticks that are broken off trees, and use these instead. So these are kind of our beginnings of lumber. There's also, on the ground here, there's some rocks, and we got an achievement for this. Definitely a rock, and this is phyllite. Now, phyllite is a pretty decent rock type. There's a lot of rock types in this game. They're very heavily based off of real life, and then their mineral composition, their hardness and things is also based on real life. So you're going to be finding copper in certain amounts of rocks. You're going to be finding iron in other types of rocks. So keep that in mind when you're playing Terraformacraft. You might have to refer to a wiki often. Beyond that, you also notice that the bars at the bottom are a little bit different. We have 998 total HP. Now that's our max HP currently starting out. We are level 0, so that gets increased the more we level up. And then also, based on our diet, that number can change. So if we have a very poor diet, that health value is affected by having a poor diet. Now, the green and blue bars, those are new. So the green bar is our hunger meter. So as you can see, as we're moving around a lot, that's going to drain relatively quick. If we sprint a lot, the water will drain quick as well. So water is going to be a resource we're going to have to manage a little bit here. And to refill your water meter, it's fairly simple. You're going to come to these areas here, and these areas are usually marked with reeds, cattails, for those here in America, I guess you can call them. And to drink, all you do is right click into them and you would drink using your hand. Now, eventually we'll get items and things to take care of a lot of that water storage for us, but early on we're going to be drinking just with our hands here with an empty fist. Now, you'll notice the lag is getting a little serious, but that's normal with Terrafirmacraft. As we explore and generate more chunks, that'll die down over time. It's just these worlds are a lot taller. If you can see, we are on Y point 148, which is pretty high in terms of Minecraft. I believe sea level is usually 60. So as we go through, we're going to be picking up some rocks. These are the beginning crafting materials. We'll also be picking up sticks and just exploring, looking around our general starting area for interesting landmarks, potentially some ore that you might find on the surface. I don't want to show you napping just yet. Napping being the first kind of crafting you'll be doing. Your base crafting menu isn't really used initially on this mod, as we really generate terrain here. Another cool feature with Terrafirmacraft is you can pass through leaves. It is slower than walking around them, but it is kind of a nice little touch, basically saying, hey, these aren't blocks to stand on, these are leaves, and that's it. Now, obviously, we're getting into, what are these, dogwood trees, I think, or something like that. If we want to cut these down, that is probably the next step into our survival. We're going to have to start thinking about shelter soon. And what you're going to want to do is break some leaves. Now, leaf breaking, one, that gives you some sticks, but it also gives you the saplings. As soon as you cut down the tree, all these leaves disappear, and you lose your chance at getting saplings from this tree. So if you ever want to replant, make sure to de-leaf trees. Now, early on, we're just going to do a 1-to-1 kind of seed to tree ratio here. Now, to cut this down, obviously, I'm not going to punch it with my hand. You can see this isn't even doing anything. It's just making a noise. What we want to do is make our first axe. And to do that, you're going to pick up 2 rocks, and you're going to right-click on the rocks on your hotbar there. And that's going to bring up this menu. This is the napping menu. Napping, hitting 2 rocks together to make a shape, has been done since the Stone Age. So what we're going to be doing is turning this solid piece of stone into an axe head. So we're going to get rid of some material that we don't need to allow us to attach it to one of these sticks as a handle. So this is the blade, and then this back side here is kind of the attachment point for the wood. So we have a stone axe head. Very simple. There's some other stone recipes. If we take it down the center here, take out each corner. Now this, by itself, if I remove this whole other side, this would make a knife blade. You can see kind of the angle there, the straight edge, and the straight spine of the blade itself. But I can make 2 knife blades at once by simply cutting down the middle and then turning each of them into a knife blade. Now, to make these into a functional tool, you simply put it on a stick, and now we have a knife. Now this does 40 attack damage. If you hold shift, it does piercing. Right click on the top of non-soil block to create a meal preparation area. So this is, you can create like a table surface for cooking later on. This is the axe, of course. It doesn't have any miscellaneous features, so holding shift doesn't do anything. And does slashing damage, and does 60 slashing damage. Now, beyond that, obviously, we have our standard Minecraft inventory, but also this slot here that I'm hovering over, you can see it highlighting, is a back slot, which we'll get to eventually. There's also some additional tabs. This is for your skills, so blacksmithing and things will affect, say, how well that item is, its durability. Maybe it'll get bonuses. Maybe it'll last longer, potentially mine quicker if your blacksmithing skill is higher. When you chop down a tree, you'll notice that the base of that tree basically completely nullifies the rest of it. So here we are. I believe this is, ended up being birch. Birch trees. So these are all birch. Different tree types also have different wood colors, which we can get into later, and also different heating properties. Like, this game is very in depth in what all you're going to be doing. So all of these things matter later on. It looks like we have some other items here that's not just a rock. And breaking this is galena. Galena is actually not used for anything on this mod. It's kind of a trash material right now. They're working on a new version, so this is kind of as far as they get. But believe me, it is great. There's some deer. We could hunt these for some food source initially, but animals and things don't respawn, so you gotta hunt lightly and a little bit more conservatively with your meals here. So you want to maybe try and focus a little bit more on growing crops. And you can find wild crops just like this. These look like tomato plants, and they are. And the food items do have 2 bars here. The green bar is how fresh that food item is. Food item can spoil. And the white bar is the amount. So we can stack tomatoes up to 160 ounces. They are a light item and they are tiny. So that's something to keep in mind going forward. So we'll just grab a couple of these. Now we're going to get some seeds and then also some tomatoes. You can stack these together to combine their weight. And so we'll eat a little bit just to bring back our food. Now, when I was talking about the diet, there is a diet tab. This is it. You can see we ate some vegetables. That has increased. Everything else has decreased a little bit because we haven't been eating a balance of a whole bunch of things. There's also a calendar so you can keep track of time. Here is a freshwater spot, so I'm going to hold right click at it and drink. It is becoming evening, which is not the best thing in the world for us. So what I might have to do is actually kind of just dig down in the ground for a bit and hide. It's a little bit harder to do that in this game than base Minecraft, simply because dirt and gravel actually have physics to them. So for example, if I wanted to just dig out, wow, not all this stuff is completely like 1 block above dirt. So let's try this. So we'll dig this way for a second. I could make a shovel to make this quicker. Let me just pick up 2 of these here and I can explain what this is going to do. So obviously if I put a dirt block down, that's fine. Another one on top of it, it's gonna slide off and start making a pile rather than just becoming a pole. Alright, now this is dark and slightly scary. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hide. Best way to do that early on is to go up to a flat surface, and generally you're going to use wood more so than anything else because wood is not a physics object like dirt, gravel, cobblestone. Okay, so I spent some of the morning running around, seeing all that we have here on our island. It looks like we have a bunch of phyllite and a little bit of limestone in the area. And phyllite really only has copper. Limestone has some copper and also some iron. So it looks like we might be able to use this area as a decent starting zone, which is good. That bodes well. I generally want to try and always have iron or a source of iron nearby my main base here initially. So as we load in some new terrain, the sun is rising over the horizon. We come across kind of a new feature. This is a hot spring, and hot springs, you can't really drink out of them, obviously, but they do heal you when you do bathe in them. So hot springs can be useful in that sense that if you are injured from trying to survive the night and you don't want to wait for the HP regeneration to happen from just having a full hunger meter and things like that, you can just chill out in the hot springs. So beyond that, we're just going to keep moving around a little bit, and trying to find our final resting spot to settle down. Now what I'm really looking for is a good source of tall trees for a lot of lumber, because starting out you're going to need a lot of it. And this Douglas fir, I believe that's what these tall ones are, one of my favorite trees for that purpose. They're a little annoying to get saplings from to replant, but the wood color on them is beautiful, and then also just the amount of wood they yield for chopping down one tree is very nice. The burn rate on that wood is also relatively good as well. Now, moving on, we're not going to necessarily worry too much about metallics just yet. We're just going to look around. It looks like we're at the border between the limestone and phyllite, which is actually pretty good for us. So we're going to follow this a little ways. And we're just looking for some fresh water. This looks to be fresh water, obviously, because it's not really ocean-like in nature. So we can get a little bit of a drink. So since we're not necessarily worrying about, you know, getting straight to Copper Age, we're going to spend a little bit of time in the Stone Age itself. We can look over here. And this might be a decent spot to call home if it wasn't covered in a giant hole in the ground randomly. This is not 100% ideal, as there are cave-ins in this game. So you have to be careful about caverns and ravines, especially going down into them. If you mine around them a lot, you could potentially just die via cave-in. So this terrain is very rugged and very unsafe. Oh, yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that, but some dirt decided to fall into that cave there. Very unsafe indeed. So we'll keep looking a little bit more. I do like these lower plains areas, though. We need to find a good water source, and potentially also along the coast. The coast is a good food source starting out as well. As I'm just loading in terrain, I do apologize for the initial lag. It is nothing that I can do to avoid it. You can see right now it's perfectly fine. We're getting decent FPS, but just every time I load in a chunk, it's gonna kind of yell at us as we move forward. So maybe to save you guys and from the suffering of this, let's go ahead and cut to, I guess, an interesting living spot. I found home. So we have a small pond here, which is great. Eventually we could fish out of that for some food. We also, if you look over here on the ground, now I'm not going to pick these up just yet, but there's some copper exposed. And this is a great sign for us in the future. We can potentially move into the Copper Age relatively smoothly from this point on. Beyond that, over here on this side, there is a special flower that I need to show you guys. And this is kind of our first steps into making our home and claiming this territory. So first things first, if you take your knife and take out some of these tall grass, you're going to get thatch, which is a needed resource here. But these yellow flowers with the kind of bushy green stems, these mark clay. And clay is the first stage, pretty much right after Stone Age. So we're going to be working with pottery and tools like that. So we're going to need kilns. We're going to need wood for that kiln. We're going to need sticks and things for that as well. So let's go ahead and make a shovel. The shovel being another basic tool that you guys are going to learn how to make here. And that is the simple recipe. We just take out the sides and then go one in on the bottom each way. We can simply attach that tool head to a stick here and go from there. There's no stone swords, by the way, so if you're looking to defend yourself early on, I would recommend javelins. But in reality, the axe is probably the best choice you get. The dagger knife thing is okay, but I just like the axe, I think, the most. So, mining this clay, you're going to get between 1, sometimes none, I guess, clay per block, up to 4. And you're going to need, I think, 8 to do the clay molding. And that's essentially how you're going to be crafting those items. So once you craft your clay items, which we'll do here in a second, after I set up some things. First things first, setting up your base, you're going to need a fire pit. So 2 sticks in a diagonal, that's going to give you a fire starter. And the fire starter, another beginning tool. Now to make your first fire, you're going to drop 3 sticks on the same block. Be careful not to pick these up again, as that is common. Now, equip your fire starter, look at the top of the block, and just hold right click. Now this does have a durability. You can see it has used up a little bit of it, but it has made this little fire pit. Now you're going to add logs to it to maintain the heat. This is not permanent. You have to relight it and reuse it as you go along here. You can cook items simply by dropping it on there. It goes through different heating stages. So this is a cold tomato, and as it heats up, you know, maybe we'll have a warm tomato for dinner here. So cooking things do increase their value in terms of nutrition, and then also your character prefers things randomly generated to be cooked in certain ways. So that fire is going to keep us safe. From here, what you're going to do is you're going to mark out some of your territory. To make torches, you're simply going to throw them on the fire. They're going to heat up and light like so. And you're going to only be able to do this one at a time. Eventually, we'll be able to make some more advanced cooking areas to do more things more efficiently, but early on, you're going to be rather limited. So before it gets too dark, what I'm going to do is simply lay these torches kind of in a perimeter here, obviously to keep some of the hostile elements somewhat away from us. We don't need many of these. Now, the torches as well, these do burn out. And to relight them, all you need to do is to right-click on them with a torch from your inventory. Breaking them, if they are unlit, will actually just remove them from the game. So you can't really game the system there. You're going to have to actually make another torch to go back and relight your other torches. Ow, I'm on fire. Okay, don't walk over the fire. That's another survival tip for you. Survival tip number 43. Fire bad. Don't step in it. So as we mark out our territory, I know this is kind of an ugly thing to do. I'm not a huge fan of doing such a thing, but it is kind of necessary here early on. That way I can start clearing out some of these trees relatively safely. Let's have a little bit of a drink from our pond. Pretty excited to do some fishing in here actually, but we'll have to kill some spiders for some string before that can be taken place. So let's cut down some trees. Trees, of course, going to give us fuel for our fire. So we'll cut this down real quick. But then also this is going to give us fuel for our kiln. And the kiln is going to be pretty much where we're going to end the episode today. We got a whole bunch of Douglas fir logs out of that. The kiln, to make a kiln, all you do is you dig a 1 block deep pit. Simple enough, right? It's not complicated to dig a block. Beyond that, you're going to need some pottery to put in here, and that's where our clay comes in. And you just right-click the clay, and you come back up to this napping menu again. Very similar to the stone one. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a jug. Jugs, hopefully, I believe it's that. Yes. So you can see this is the pour spout up here. This is the little handle. So you can see we made a little clay jug. And this is an unfired item here. Now, to fire it, we will have to... being interrupted, aren't we? Yes, we are. Sometimes it's best to just retreat and run away. So I'm gonna run for my life for a little while here. Okay, it looks like the zombies are all gone. It is morning now, and we can continue on with our first kiln firing. So we made our first clay item. Let's go ahead and make some more. You can do 4 firings at once of small items. There are some larger items that you might not be able to do. For example, this right here is the large vessel, and that actually needs to be fired by itself just due to its size, and we can go ahead and do that. That large vessel, that's going to provide us... Okay, I was running around too much, and now I'm very hungry. You can see some effects going on. I need food. Okay, let's solve this problem now. Well, there's some mushrooms. That's not gonna fix it. Okay, run, run, run. I should have picked up food. I don't know why I didn't. I think I remember seeing some. Oh no, these are just orange flowers. Okay, maybe the shoreline might have something for us? It was so dark running around that I didn't take note. I totally said running around like Christopher Walken, but that's a thing. No, no! I'm in a hole. Okay, I can get out of this. No problem. Luckily, that was an area where I could actually fit objects without physics ruining it. Okay, there's the ocean. The ocean can be a good food source. That's grain on the other side of that ravine. But grain isn't going to do anything. Oh, hey, Wolfie. That's not an ocean. That's a lake. Okay, food. Food! Where's the food? Come on, it's summer. It's supposed to be very abundant and... Oh, more copper. That's nice. We will take note of that. Okay. Food. There's our food, boys. We're gonna get a squid. I think that is our best option. So we're gonna quickly swim down here as fast as possible. And try not to die. Okay, air, air, air. Ow. Where'd that squid go? There he is. Get him. Kill him, kill him, kill him. He's running away, he's running away. Okay, we killed him. Alright, we killed a squid. Squid is good initial food. As you can see, they are along the coast like so. And we got oil sacks. We didn't get actually any food from it. Crap. And we would have had to run back to base to cook it anyways. Tell you what, I'm going to have to find something on the surface. Okay, pig. Pig, come here. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to sacrifice you for the greater good. I don't have time. Okay. Well, you broke my dagger. Come on, die. Okay, we got some meat. Quickly back to the fire. Okay, well, welcome to the cooking tutorial 101. What we're going to do is quickly throw in some logs here. We're going to light that puppy on fire, open it up, and throw in that pork, possibly another log, and let this thing cook. We're just going to get it to hot, I guess. I don't know. Okay, it's warm. The taste, of course, not sweet, not sour, not bitter, nothing like that. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Cook faster. I don't know how long I can go without eating. I don't really get to this point often enough. It's warm. Now it's hot. Okay, now it's rare. It's a cooked pork rare. You don't really want to eat pork rare or medium rare or anything like that. Generally, you have to eat pork fully cooked. So we're just kind of waiting here. Come on, we're at medium and medium well. Fuck it, that's close enough. I can deal with the food poisoning. Oh, the food, glorious food. So killing one pig has pretty much brought us back up to full. So that's good. And we can finish our clay tutorial. Right. To put clay items into the bottom of your kiln, not to do a really harsh transition here, you hold shift and you right click. Very similar to storing logs and things like that. So there is our jug. This is our large vessel, which is like a storage chest early on here. Beyond that, what you can also do is make these. These are clay molds. And this will be used for making molds for our metal and making bars. And then also you will need these. These are clay vessels themselves. These are the smaller variant. Beyond that, now you just need your wood and your straw and your fire starter. So you're going to look at the bottom there. You're going to fill it with straw. Just hold right click, look at the floor there. It's going to fill it with straw. Okay, up to a certain point. You can't overfill it. Logs, you're going to need 8 of these. Okay. And now, this is essentially a kiln. You're going to hold right click. You're going to try and light the tops of these with your fire starter. This does take the durability. And then once they are lit, oh boy, I broke my fire starter, so it started taking the logs back off. We have to make another one real quick. Okay, there we go. So now those are lit. And then after a few hours in game, we'll be popping those out as finished items. So that's where we're going to finish today's episode. I hope you guys are excited for another series of Terrafirmacraft. It is quite the interesting survival game, in my opinion. Very in-depth. A whole lot of crafting mechanics to go through and go over. If you guys have any questions, concerns about the game itself, how to install, you can go to their wiki page, and I will leave a link to their main page down in the description down below. So, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment as to maybe what type of buildings you might expect to see as we go through the different eras. We are in the Stone Age right now. And go ahead and watch my other videos. You know what to do. I'll see you guys in the next episode.